Fallout 4 has a number of hidden references, many of which are hidden in plain sight, and in this guide I am going to go through 8 references that you may have missed. Make sure to check out the 7th one on this list, as it is particularly interesting given how difficult it is to actually find in the first place. Hi, I'm Mo and I'm trapped in Fallout. For our first reference, let's actually begin at the very beginning of the game, where we hear the news broadcaster talking about some very particular topics. In specifics, let's wait for him to mention something about sports.
Something that is unquestionably, inescapably American.
The newscaster mentions something that is unquestionably, inescapably American. This is actually a line that's more or less been taken directly from Fallout 3, specifically mentioned to you during the dialogue exchange with John Henry Eden, who is effectively in charge of the Enclave radio in Fallout 3. It is very interesting that one of the very first few references that you come across in Fallout 4 is actually a tribute to Fallout 3, specifically the Enclave. For our next reference, we will need to go to the Boston Public Library. It is directly northeast of Diamond City. Now once you make it here, you will actually need to bring MacCready with you, and as you travel or explore the library, MacCready may say the following line.
Let's be careful. No human being would possibly pile books this way.
This line that MacCready just said, let's be careful, no human beings would possibly pile books this way, is a direct reference to the first Ghostbusters movie, where the character Peter Venkman uses this line when they visit the library where they basically find a ghost. For our next reference, we will need to travel to the Far Harbor DLC, specifically the Beaver Creek Lanes, which is located almost on the very top right-hand corner of the map. And again, once you make it, just go inside. Once inside, just go straight and you should see a terminal right over there. What we want to do is open the terminal. So just quickly open the terminal. When you open the terminal, if you select the first option, specifically League Standings, and then select the 2078 Bar Harbor League Standing, you will see that in third position is the team Holy Rollers. Holy Rollers is actually Ned Flanders' team from The Simpsons. So this is directly referencing Ned Flanders' team in The Simpsons. For our next reference, we are going to go back to the base game of Fallout 4 and travel to Sunshine Tidings Co-op. It is directly south, far south of Sanctuary. Now chances are you probably have noticed this one. What we're going to do is you will actually find a Mr. Gussie that's sort of been, let's just say, semi-programmed and is just wandering around. If you travel and approach this terminal and then go into Mr. Handy Control and then go choose Protocols and then select the Guard Protocols, if you now approach the Mr. Handy, who should be around here, he will repeat the lines Exterminate.
Exterminate!
This is most likely a line that's directly taken from the Doctor Who series, where a very particularly similar type of robot, let's just call them robots, use exactly this same line. And if you made it this far into the guide, then please do consider leaving a like and leaving a comment of any other references that you have found in Fallout 4 that I haven't really covered on my channel yet. Again, I really like talking about this kind of stuff in the comments, so please do feel free to leave a comment and we can always have a chat. For the next reference, we're going to travel just south of Cambridge Polymer Labs. It is directly northwest of Diamond City. Now once you make it, which is basically over there, from there you need to travel south and you will see this boat. Now this reference is actually one of the first few references that were found when Fallout 4 first came out. And chances are you probably know this one, but let's take a look anyway. Once you make it onto the boat, you will find what appears to be a really large fish that at first glance looks like, well, I'm not going to name any particular animals, but it seems to be somewhat mutated, somewhat different. More interestingly, if you look right next to it, you will find a fallen, let's just say, skeleton that is wearing a blue shirt, a blue bandana, and has a machete. This is a direct reference to the movie Jaws. This is particularly referencing a character called Quint, played by Robert Shaw in the movie Jaws. For our next reference, we are going to travel to the castle. Now, if you've never been to the castle, it is directly southeast, far southeast of Diamond City, all the way over here next to the shoreline. Now, to gain access to this particular reference, you would need to have completed the Minutemen quest, where you eventually gain access to the armory right over here. So once you've done that, if you just go down right over here, once you make it down here, you will find the general But more importantly to our reference, you will actually find this skeleton here that appears to be entombed behind this wall and sort of shackled to the wall, and you will find a selection of wine. This wine and this skeleton is a direct reference to the cask of Amontillado, which is a story that was written by Edgar Allan Poe. In that story, the protagonist Montesor leads his victim Fortunato deep into his family's catacombs with the promise of tasting some rare wine. However, when they actually get down there, Montenaso actually chains Fortunato to a stone wall and then basically entombs him. To further confirm this reference, if you actually pick up one of these wines and inspect them, now, this could be quite difficult to actually see, but if you look at the name of the wine or the second line down, it does say Amontillado, but more importantly, the last line on that bottle seems to say P. Edgar, i.e. Edgar Allan Poe. Now, let's look at the 7th reference, which is, as said, I think one of the more interesting ones. In order to see this reference, you will need to make your way to the Nuka World DLC. In particular, you will need to make your way to the Funhouse, which appears to be quite appropriately named. So once you make it, go inside. Now, as you recall, at the beginning of this video, I said this one's a rather interesting one or rather difficult one to find, and you'll see why. When you actually enter the Funhouse, go through the door on the right, and the first area you will come to is this mirror wall or glass wall of room, and it's basically difficult. We need to get to that exit. The easiest way to find the exit is actually follow the floor, and where you don't see a glass wall, go through that bit. So instead of looking at the walls, just look at the floor and just follow the wall through. So I'm just going to try and rush this a little bit. So when you get to your first fork, don't go to your right, or rather don't go north, just follow west, and you should be able to find your way eventually through it, just like so. So I should be out. I think it's this way right over here, and then this should be the way out of this particular area right over here. Once you open this door, you will now find yourself at a conveyor belt area, and you'll have to sort of jump your way across. Once you've done that, you will now find some rotating or revolving platforms that you'll have to jump on very quickly. The second platform's slower than the first one. Now this one's a really interesting one. Open the door and you will find yourself in this spiral room, which is actually quite nauseating. So what you want to do is just go north and then go through this tube over here. Once you've done that, go to the very end and this time take a left, then go through this one. When you get to this bit, look to your right and then go through this one, and you should see the floor spinning as well, as it wasn't already quite inducing enough for negative reasons. From here, just go all the way to the very end, so you should be heading south now. And this one's quite tricky. There's actually gaps on the floor. It's hard to see. You could fall through these gaps, so try and avoid the gaps over here. And then you should be out right over here, and then go through this door. Now we're not quite done yet, but go through this bit here and then open this red door, and you will get to another spinning room. From here, you want to go into that red room over there, the room that's sort of south. Open it, and it will be booby trapped, so do be careful. So I'm just going to try and avoid the booby trap as much as I can and go inside. Now once you make it here, you will find a mannequin holding a knife that appears to be attacking a skeleton who appears to be in a very defensive position. This scene over here is directly taken from Psycho, which is a movie that was made quite a long time ago, and in that movie one of the characters basically attacks another character in the shower because of their psychotic nature. For our last reference in this guide, we are going to travel to the Wilson Automatoys Corporate HQ. It is directly east of Diamond City. Once inside, go straight and then go through the first door you see on your right, which will be locked with an expert lock. And then go up the stairs to the very top and then go through the door here on your left. As you do that, look to your right again and go through this door over here and use the fallen down ceiling to go to the floor above, and then go through the door over here on your right. As you do that, look to your left and just head straight, and this door here will be locked with an expert lock also. Go through the door and then you need to access this door, which will be locked by this terminal, and after you've done that, you should have access to this terminal over here. When you access the terminal itself, look at the development log, and from here you will find 3 log entries, one on the 14th, one on the 17th, and one on the 20th. If you open the one on the 14th, you will see there is a line there that says they punched a hole in the floor during today's test, need to scale them back again. If you now look at the log entry for the 17th, that will say, can't believe I skipped Marlene's recital to sit with a bunch of pink horses and watch paint dry. And lastly, the one on the 20th, if you open that one up, that will say, I can't afford to be tardy, clock is ticking Arlene, clock is ticking. These 3 lines that I've mentioned from these 3 log entries are all references to 3 very specific episodes of My Little Pony. The first log entry is a reference to the episode The Last Roundup. The second log entry is a reference to Too Many Pinkie Pies, and the last log entry is a reference to the episode Lesson 0. Again, all 3 of these are references to My Little Pony. In this guide, I went through 8 references that you may have missed, but if not, then perhaps click on the video you see on the screen right now, where I will show you 6 more hidden references in Fallout 4. Click on the video you see on the screen right now to learn more about these 6 hidden references in plain sight in Fallout 4.